Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for listening, being with us. My name is Paul. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality where we are building a liberty machine. And one of the ways you can help us do that is to call us or text us, the number 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Yesterday, we told you a little bit about the expected Conduit for Commerce 2017 scorecard to come out, where they have scored their bills and they have actually ranked basically, who is the best legislator. This is the list, ranking them when it comes to how they voted. And it's based on the, if you went to Conduit for Action at all during the session, and we told you this yesterday, but during the session every week they had their weekly scorecard. We did a segment here with Mr. Josh Waters every week, which was kind of a scorecard roundup, where we talked about each bill, sometimes more in depth than others, but we would hit on basically everything that was being discussed for the most part. These were the things that Conduit for Action, for example, thought either, grew government or shrank government or increased dependency on government or decreased dependency on government or spent money that we don't have or, cut spending, essentially. I mean, those are the, the pros and the negatives of what government's going to do, right? So I think we can all agree it just very rarely just goes unchanged, right? Every time they meet, somebody's trying to change something to get an advantage somewhere. I spoke at a breakfast meeting this morning, and I went over some of David Crow's numbers with them, and it was interesting. I mentioned that, in 2015, fiscal year 2015, we actually had, a $24 billion budget here in Arkansas. That's actually what makes Arkansas tick. And, of course, most people say we only have a $5 billion budget, we're a small state and that sort of thing. And I just wanted to start the conversation by saying, no, actually, we're talking about $24 billion. And that's just important. In general, it's important so we can realize that there's a lot more people that might be interested in divvying up $24 billion than $5 billion. I mean, that's just logic, right? So that's the kind of environment that we have here. Okay? But back to this scorecard. This is really, really interesting stuff. And, again, it's Conduit for Commerce. And I actually have the article over at paulharrell.com posted in the comments. I mean, if you want to follow along with us, you can do that yourself, or we can just throw it up on the screen. Go ahead, Joe. Here it is. Conduit for Commerce 2017 ranking of the 91st General Assembly. This is the regular and special sessions, so we're ranging from January of this year to May of this year. And this, again, just posted a little under 30 minutes ago. And so everybody feel free to rush to your computer, legislators, and see where you fall, or you can just listen to the program because we're about to show it to you. But this is how it starts, and I think this is a really comprehensive way to address what this scorecard is. I'm really glad they put this statement here first. Much like any specific vote, scoring of votes by Conduit for Commerce is not an exact science, as some bills have greater impact on Arkansas if passed. However, the weekly pre-vote publication scorecards released during the regular session by Conduit for Action, referencing specific bills, is reflective of the measure used in Conduit for Commerce's final vote tallies. Likewise, only bills which reflect the focus and mission of CFC are taken into account when deriving these rankings. Therefore, our scoring is weighted for principles based upon the following preferred outcomes: reduces the size of government, reduces dependency on government, and or reduces spending by government. Votes cast by legislators on bills on the floor and during committees when known. I love that because we don't always know when the committee, how the committee is going to vote, what actually happens, are all considered. So let me say that again. Votes cast by legislators on bills on the floor and during committees, when known, are all considered. In total, this is a scorecard of 30 Senate floor votes along with 3 supportive committee votes were scored. For members of the House of Representatives, 35 floor votes were scored and 13 committee votes were included in the scoring. It is believed that the methods used by CFC will ultimately yield a better assessment of the pattern of voting by a specific senator or House member. It is our goal to assist voters as they measure differences in their expectations and results. Ultimately, our intent is that the voting pattern of these elected officials as they relate to the above principles is made clear. Likewise, as the methods and results of the CFC rankings are compared to other groups, differences may be noted. These differences should be filtered with the understanding that CFC is an Arkansas-founded and small business-focused organization which not only understands the fiscal impact of these bills, but is able to use knowledge and background regarding directly related issues which may not be apparent to national groups. Now, let me stop there. So, after the show yesterday, I noticed, for example, after the show yesterday, we talked about this scorecard coming out. I happened to notice State Representative Bob Ballinger went ahead and shared a post he made, I think, several months ago, referencing a national scoring agency about how he's one of the most conservative legislators in the country. Maybe that's a coincidence. Maybe it's not. I don't know. All I'm saying is I noticed it, and I was thinking, And then I saw this. I saw this right here where it says, it's specifically saying, look, essentially, who are you going to trust? This is a state organization that only focuses on the state of Arkansas, and we've got information that may not be, that these national groups just may not be aware of, history, background. What the politicians said when they voted for this versus what they're saying now, and that sort of thing. Kind of like sometimes the Supreme Court can judge the intent of what they're interpreting based on what politicians have said. I mean, we saw that recently with Donald Trump, although it was ridiculous. But then we also saw them ignore that when they ignored that, for example, when Barack Obama said that Obamacare was not a tax increase, and yet the Supreme Court ignores that and calls it a tax anyway, just to, But my point is, that's my point. It goes on, likewise, as the methods and results of the CFC rankings are compared to other groups, differences may be noted. These differences should be filtered with the understanding that CFC is an Arkansas-founded small business. Okay, I read that already. All right, so let's get to this. All right, here we go. These are the rankings of the Senate. Look at there, right there. That's pretty good. Number 1, we have Brian King. Now, you got to look at the score differences. We're going to be talking with Brenda Vassar-Taylor coming up at 4:30. She's going to kind of go over the scoring method of this and how these numbers got to be where they are. If you look right there, the number 1 ranking on this Conduit for Commerce, 2017 legislative ranking is Senator Brian King. He is a Republican from District 5, a score of 196. Number 2 in this line, you have Senator Linda Collins Smith with a score of 189. Number 3, Gary Stubblefield, a score of 153. Scott Flippo comes in at 148. Terry Rice, number 5, at 118. And then number 6, Senator Alan Clark at a score of 101. And then we have pretty drastic drop-offs. Number 7, you get to Senator Trent Gardner with a 70. Cecile Bledsoe with a 54. Senator Blake Johnson, 51. Senator Jason Rapert, number 10, coming in at 49. Number 11, Senator Bart Hester at 35. Senator David Sanders, 33 is his score, but he's number 12 on the list, but 33 is his score. Number 13, Senator Missy Irvin with a 17 on the score. Senator Jimmy Hickey, Republican, with a 7. Senator Ron Caldwell, number 15 on the list, coming in with a score of a 2. Then you get to the first Democrat on the list, Senator Larry Teague, Number 16 on the list, Democrat coming in at a score of -3. Senator Jonathan Dismang, a Republican, and the President Pro Temp of the Senate. -4 is his score there. You see that there at the bottom. Coming back up here, Senator Greg Stanridge, a Republican, and -8. Senator Dave Wallace, number 19 on this list. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about votes that have to do with, does it grow government? Does it increase dependency on government? He's coming in at a -17. Senator Jim Hendren coming in number 20, coming in at a -19. Senator Jane English, 21, coming in at -21. What a coincidence there. And then we have our friend Jake Files, number 22 on the list, coming in at -28 with a score of -28. Number 23, Senator John Cooper, Republican, coming in at a -36. And let's see here. We have Bill Sample, a Republican, at -55. Democrat. Now, here we get to 3 Democrats in the row. Linda Chesterfield, Bruce Malek, Joyce Elliott, -58, -73, -79. Then we have Republican Senator Eddie Joe Williams, number 28 on the list, coming in at -82. Then 2 more Democrats, Stephanie Flowers and Keith Ingram, -98 to -101. Republican Lance Eads coming in at a -103. And then another Republican, Senator Jeremy Hutchinson, one of the governor's nephews, coming in at a -105. Then we got the rest of the list. You've got Democrats. Eddie Cheatham, -106. Will Bond, -108. And Uvalde Lindsay, who I believe just announced he will not be seeking re-election, -118 was the score there. Now, before we get to the House, okay, scroll up a little bit, Joe. We're streaming this at Facebook Live, YouTube, paulharrell.com. You can get to this link going to paulharrell.com and clicking on the link in the comments. I have just a brief observation about this. And you see, we had a great piece a couple of weeks ago about primary seasons and the primaries to come. And it was a great history lesson in what Governor Asa Hutchinson did during the primary season of 2016, okay, during the winter into the spring. And he supported folks, and he's on record saying this, Republicans. He took sides in Republican primaries to support Republicans that supported his agenda, okay? He's on record as saying that. And so as I look to the candidates that he supported over challengers, let's see here if we can find the first one. The first one is going to be Jane English. Jane English coming in number 21 on a list out of 35 senators. Massive Republican majority in the House, or in the Senate, by the way. And she's coming in at number 21 at -21. So Jane English got the support of the governor, and her voting record is certainly not one that is at the top of this list when you consider, does it grow government, does it increase dependency on government, does it spend money we don't have. So who's another senator that he took sides with? Eddie Joe Williams is another one. You got to go all the way down to number 28 with a score of -82. Governor Asa Hutchinson picked the side of Eddie Joe Williams, and we have a correlation here. He's certainly not interested in the economic freedom filter we talk so much about. And then last, let's just go on down here to Lance Eads. Now, this is interesting because this is one of the instances in where Asa picked Lance Eads in this primary against Republican conservative Sharon Lloyd. Lance Eads was a House member at the time making the leap, but he replaced the candidate, the incumbent, John Woods, who's now being indicted. Now, Asa originally was throwing a fundraiser for John Woods, and then John Woods dropped out of the race, and Lance Eads took his place, and the governor supported Lance Eads in a primary over an open seat. There wasn't even an incumbent in that race at that point, but Asa sided with Lance Eads over Sharon Lloyd anyway. And what are the results? Well, Lance Eads won, and -103 is his Conduit for Commerce score, a 31 on the list. I just feel like that is something worth pointing out. Tell me what you think about that. but there's certainly, I believe, a correlation between executing ACE's policies, and that's what ACE's policies look like to me. Along with the nephews, Jim Hendren, negative 19, and Jeremy Hutchinson at negative 105. Not to mention Jonathan Dismang. I mean, you know, there's a lot to be garnered from this. But kudos, I would say, to those who are above 100 on this, who got the points. And again, we're gonna figure out in this hour, if you're a legislator, you're wondering how this was scored. You're about to find out. Stay tuned throughout the rest of the hour, okay? 870-275-9799. Back in a minute. All right, so I'm following the Facebook video here, our Facebook Live video. We have some chatter, people wondering. So we got Rick on Facebook. Can't wait to see the House list. My rep will be negative. Well, I asked you the question, who is your rep in the House? Gary is replying, haha, Rick's got a dandy rep. Crying, okay, what is it, Joe? A crying, laughing face emoji. Okay, all right. Well, let's get to the House list then. We're going over the Conduit for Commerce 2017 legislative scorecard. I'm sure many of you have wanted to know about this, but I'm telling you, I'm not going to go and read all 100 House members. I had somebody, please don't, I read all 35. But let's just take a look at this. You guys can see, go ahead, scroll down. Let's go ahead and let's see where we got. Here's the House version coming in at number 1 with a score of 265 is State Representative Dan Sullivan out of District 53 on the, wow, I mean, that is incredible. Dan Sullivan, number 1 on the Conduit for Commerce list.
Jack's number 40. He's the first negative.
All right. Well, hang on. Hold on to that. Okay. Well, go ahead, Joe. What are you saying?
Rick commented on the Facebook. I got it pulled up on my phone. His representative is Representative Jack Fortner. Jack Fortner is number 40, the very first negative.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, so it looks like Rick knows his state representative. Look at there. Yeah, Jack Fortner coming in. You've got Republican John Maddox with a 0 on this scoring list, and then Jack Fortner, Representative Fortner, coming in at negative 2. Let's not focus on the negatives quite yet. Okay, let's focus on the top 10 of this. Look at these guys. I mean, congratulations to them, first of all, because, it's hard to have a conservative voting record in the House. I mean, it really is. You got people abandoning you all the time. You got people who, say that they're with you the night before as you're going over, and then they get the call from the governor or they get the call from Speaker Gillum, and then they abandon you. You feel very lonely. Dan Sullivan coming in at number 1. State Representative Dan Sullivan, 265. That's his score. Number 2, we have, who I have said many times is the most conservative member in the House, State Representative Josh Miller coming in at number 2. That's no surprise with a score of 257. Next up, we do have in leadership the Republican Majority Whip, State Representative John Payton, who did some really, really gutsy stuff, parliamentary procedure, trying to kill big government pieces of legislation, coming in at number 3 with a score 238. Retiring State Representative David Meeks coming in at 188 at number 4. Then we have Austin McCullum, number 5, making the list as a freshman state representative, 187. Clint Penzo, who really, in many ways, Clint Penzo is a surprise to me, but at the same time, I mean, he really just kind of kept his head down and made some good votes, honestly. Brant Smith at number 7, Richard Womack number 8, Stephen Meeks tied at number 8. Then you got 9, Mickey Gates, and number 10, Grant Hodges. Back in a minute. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. We've been going over this Conduit for Commerce, okay, which is, they do these awards after every legislative session, so every other year, called the Calvin Coolidge Awards, and the people who get Calvin Coolidge Awards are selected from this scorecard, okay? And so it's really fascinating. We've been going over the Senate list, the top 6, Senator Brian King, Linda Collins Smith, Gary Stubblefield, Scott Flippo, Terry Rice, and Alan Clark. making the top 6. And then you get to the House. You got the top 10 starting the number 1, Dan Sullivan, Josh Miller, John Payton, David Meeks, Austin McCullum, Clint Penzo, Brant Smith, Richard Womack, Stephen Meeks are both tied at number 8. And then Mickey Gates at number 9 and State Representative Grant Hodges number 10. Pretty impressive stuff.